Happy Financial Fitness Friday. Thanks for showing up, and hopefully you find this useful. Do a quick poll. This should only take a few minutes. Okay, so for the first question, okay, good. 4 out of 5, 80% said they put at least 10% in answer A, and then one person said they max it out totally. And I didn't mean catch-up contributions if you're under 50, but I had to add that in for people that were number 2. So that's good. At least everybody's getting, especially with bias at the max match. And the second question, let's see, if you don't max, have you set up auto increase? And 40% have set up auto increase. 60% have not set up auto increase. So, which actually I think one of those is somebody that's already maxed it out. So it looks like half and half. But if you want to know how to set up auto increase, let me know. It's something you can set up annually. It just to pop up, and it's something good to do until you can fully max. Question 3 is: have you increased your savings investments for 2023? 20% said yes. 80% said no. That's not good. Let's get those updated. But hopefully after this discussion, you'll be more encouraged to. Now, do you have an IRA? 20% said a Roth, 20% said a traditional, 60% said both. And Jonky, we were talking about it. I believe you said that's something you hadn't set up, but I mentioned we'll talk about it. But you need to set it. You should set up both a traditional and a Roth, and we'll go into the backdoor Roth during this discussion. Okay. And let's see. Do you max fund your IRA annually? 20%. Whoa, only 20% said yes, and 80% said no. So that's not good. But hopefully we can get there. Granted, you want to get that 10% in the 401k to get the max free money first, but then my next money goes into the IRA personally. And then go back to the 401k as you can. Okay, have you max funded your IRA for 2022? And like I said, I specifically said that because we can contribute until tax day of the following year. So until April 18th, 2023, we can still contribute. So you've got a month left. And Janet has mentioned, I'll look up to see if because of the disaster, if there's any allowed later contributions for this year, for California being declared a disaster area. But unfortunately, only 20% of max funded for 2022. Hope you can get a little bit more money in before that. And if you get a tax refund, maybe you can use that money there. Question 7, do you have an HSA, a health savings account with high deductible health plan? 40% said yes, 60% said no. And I don't. I'm retired military, so I can't. That's not an option for me. But if you can, it's one of the best investment tools there is. But and especially for people when they're really young and don't have many health, go to the doctor much. It's a great way, but we'll go into that too. And if you have an HSA, last question, do you spend the money yearly or invest? And 0 said spend it all yearly, which is great. 60% said they invest all and pay out of pocket, which that's or with the FSA, which is the absolute recommended way if you can. And then the 40% said they spend some and invest the rest, which is understandable. But if you can stock that money away and just keep receipts, you can reimburse yourself later. Okay. Any questions on those polls? Questions?
Yeah, Alan, do you ever find out the answer yet for the HSA question I have for you the other day?
No, I've sent out. I've got the auto response back from benefits, and they haven't responded. I know for the FSA, it just automatically takes the whole divides it by 26. But I didn't think that was the case for HSA. But I've got the question outstanding. I'll let you know as soon as I find out.
Thank you.
And that was just so everybody knows. Christian had asked about the HSA, like even with the 401k, you can front load funding that. And in our plan, if you average out 10% for the entire year, even if you say completed, completed all your contributions in October or November, you would still get the max match. And his question was, can you fund the HSA, front load the HSA, or does it have to come out equally across all the 26 paychecks throughout the year? And an HSA you should be able to max fund, but depending on the plan, it might just not allow it. So that's an outstanding question I have with our benefits. Here's the agenda. We'll quickly cover Secure. There's some good Secure 2.0 updates. The other ones I'll kind of breeze through. And then we'll go into the real gist of this topic, which is retirement savings vehicles. This came up as the next topic a year ago when people didn't really understand much of the difference between 401ks versus IRAs versus other accounts and income limits, et cetera. So I decided just to touch on these very specifically. So here's some immediate changes from Secure 2.0. And if you guys know, so like Secure 2.0 is that, setting every community up for retirement enhancement, one of the, things that Congress passed. And they've been making quite a few changes, which significantly impact how we might consider even investing for retirement. So it's important. Biggest thing I think, which is great, is they've updated RMD ages, required minimum distributions. Used to be 70 and a half, then they moved it in like 2021 to 72, and now they've updated it again for people born most everybody, 51 to 59 is 73, but nearly everybody it's going to be 75. They also reduced the penalty for not taking your RMD. It was a stiff penalty, like 50% of your RMD. And so they cut it down to 25%, and you get only 10% if you correct it quickly, which I think is by October. I don't think this is really a good thing, because what I see is they're going to enforce this now. They never really enforced the 50%. So now people are going to get hit, I think, so it sounds good, but in reality, it might be actually worse for people if they don't, it's important to make sure you're taking your RMDs as you get to that age. Now, the big deal. So what? The big thing about this is this pushes out 3 more years of, I'd say, your gap years where your income's lower if you have a lot in tax deferred accounts, like pre-tax account, 401k. When you retire and you don't have as much income coming in, you're in a much lower tax bracket, and that's when you can take that traditional 401k money and start converting it to Roth, paying the taxes at a much lower tax bracket, and get it into the Roth account where you'll have tax-free earnings for life. Any questions there? So that's significant. When you think of three years, that's quite a bit more money you can probably move out, and you'll need to, because the RMDs are going to be larger, which I'll show you guys later when you get to that the years that it's required now. Okay, other immediate changes, new exceptions to these are exceptions, so you don't have the 10% early withdrawal penalty prior to 59 and a half. I'll let you can just read those. And then they also talked about qualified charitable distribution annual limits. A lot of things were never indexed to inflation, and that's one thing they're doing well now, which is good. And that goes with qualified charitable distributions, which you can do at 70 and a half. It's such a weird, they never updated that, which is good though. You can do that before RMDs are required. And then there's a one-time 50K charitable distribution via split interest gifts. Split interest gifts, just so you know, that's like you're donating to charity, but part to charity and part either to yourself. They have things where the donor can get some like kind of an annuity back, or you could have some other beneficiary. So it doesn't 100% go to charity. And then later on, 2026, you can use for long-term care premiums. Any questions here? Okay. Who's this? Anybody know?
That Mr. Roth.
There you go. That's a good. Nice, Christian. That's Senator Roth. He's the reason we have the Roth IRA and 401k. He was the one that proposed this legislation back and got it passed in 97, and we started the Roth IRA in 98. So much of Secure 2.0 is, they call it kind of a Rothification. Now, employer match. Our plan probably doesn't have this yet. This will probably take a year before companies can really roll this in, or whether they do or not. It's not like it's a requirement, but as you know, the match has always been pre-tax money up to this point, correct? Now employers have it. You as a if the employer will allow for it, employees can prefer get a Roth match instead. You will then have more taxes to pay at tax time because you'll be paying those taxes on that money, but then you'll have that money as Roth. So it's good. I like that it's added flexibility. But it's interesting if there's questions that still aren't answered yet. Like, what if there's um, a vesting schedule for the 401k, like it's over 3 years? Well, what if it's not all vested? Are you paying taxes on stuff that's not vested? Some of that's not clear, and Congress needs to um, elaborate, I'd say, a little bit, to make sure you don't want to be paying taxes on money you don't get. And just for different plans like simple and SEP IRAs, those previously were only pre-tax. Now they're Roth as well. This is a huge one, Janet. We were talking about, which is a total change. Now the Roth 401ks starting in 2024 will no longer have our required minimum distributions, which is great. Previously, it was only Roth IRA. I'd still say most people will still roll their Roth 401k probably into the IRA, Roth IRA, just because you have better choices, typically less fees, et cetera. But there might be some reason because you have better protections, ERISA protections in the 401k. So if you've got great options in the 401k, it might be okay to just keep it there. The other thing though, catch-up contributions, which are, for people 50 and over this year, it's $7,500 for highly compensated. And this year they said it's 145K salary. Those contributions starting in 2024 will have to be Roth. Personally, I think I've kind of recommended people or thought it's a good idea to go Roth anyway, just because previously, prior to age 50, you couldn't contribute above the say 22,500 limit. But if you so if you're saving additional, it went into a taxable investing additional. It was into a taxable account, not a Roth anyway. So since you were already contributing that extra money, investing that extra money, why not, and already paying taxes on it, why not continue to do that and build up your Roth bucket? Since most people just don't have as much Roth as they would like. You know what I mean? And we'll get into the pie chart later that you guys are probably some of you familiar with.
So are you saying people that make more money are expected to pay, they want the taxes up front on the money?
Bingo.
And so
Yep.
they're going to prohibit them from putting it in, from doing tax deferred.
Exactly. And that's what a lot of this, Janet, is a lot of Roth, like I said, Rothification as well. They're looking at getting taxes now, which sounds great, but I wonder what they're going to say in 20 years when all these people have all this additional Roth money and they're not getting that.
Any tax money.
So, yeah. So,
I know.
I think there's going to be, we'll
some
see.
concern that
Yeah,
they'll
that they're going
change
to
their
do
minds.
exactly, change their minds, and who knows what they're, change the rules on Roth. Who knows?
Get it now and get it later too.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, and then here's this is more for like small businesses, but I figured I'd just throw it out there. But just let you read that real quick. But they are doing some good benefits for small business, which I think is important. Promoting small business. That's what drives drives us. And then here, this next one, these are some good ones too that are coming up in 2024 and beyond. IRA catch-up contributions will be indexed to inflation. So right now they're just 1,000. So if you're 50 or over, instead of 6,500, you can contribute 7,500. But that catch-up, that 1,000, will then be indexed to inflation. IRAs have never been indexed to inflation, which is terrible. They should be up nearly 10,000 right now, actually, if they had been. But at least this is a start. There's a weird catch up too for just people aged 60 to 63 in 2025 that'll be able to do at least $10,000 catch up. I don't know how they came up with these numbers, but what's interesting though is, okay, so now employers will also be able to match people's student loan payments. So if people didn't contribute to their 401k because they were paying down student loans instead, the company will still be able to match them. Like it's like considering that you are contributing, like to a 401, it's matchable, I guess, if that makes sense. So that's really cool. Unfortunately, I still think most people should, get that 10% in. You want that investments going instead of just paying down low interest debt if your student loans are high interest. But still, I think that this is a great changes. Some emergency withdrawals, as everybody knows, from previous polls. Sadly, about 60% of the country can't come up with $1,000 in an emergency. And then this is just for new plans, the 2025, there will be auto enrollment with auto increase for all new 401k plans. So not like our company where, new employees coming in will be, it's just for new plans that are created, which is kind of interesting. But I guess it would be too difficult to go back and tell every company they got to make a significant change. But obviously employees can opt out, but psychologically people don't. So this is a great thing to force the, auto enrollment. And then there's this surviving spouses can elect to be treated as an employee and could potentially reduce RMD amount. That one I need to study a little more. I'm not sure how that exactly plays in, but okay, now onto the regular discussion. So this week I made up my own, like what I think of as the different vehicles that we have for retirement. The 401k, I consider it a dump truck because there's so much you can contribute there as tax advantage that you can't in other things. The health savings account is a fire truck. You can use it now for an emergency, but the best thing to do with that is invest it, save your receipts, reimburse yourself later when that money compounds, because it's triple tax advantaged. It's amazing. IRA, I consider that the all-terrain vehicle, and Roth makes it military grade because the no RMDs. There's just tons of flexibility. You can pull contributions. The Roth IRA is something everybody should have. And then the brokerage account, that one I call the tow truck, because that helps pull you to the retirement age where you can pull out your 401k, et cetera, at 59 and a half. And then Social Security, that's a Honda Civic, but there's who knows? I don't expect this ever to go away because too many people depend on it, but I sliced it maybe in three, maybe 3/4, because even when that it goes away, we're still funding at least like 77% of Social Security just by the workers right now. So I don't expect Social Security to ever go away, but as they're increasing how much is taxable to Social Security, and then there could be hopefully they don't make it so that people that have wealth won't receive it even though they've paid in, but I could see that coming down the line too. But the big thing about this, like I said, all of these you can contribute to and should contribute to as much of these as possible. And we'll go into the specifics of each. Any questions before we move on? This is why I call this the dump truck. For the 2023 IRS limit is $66,000 under the overall 401k umbrella, and that's same 403b, et cetera. Normal means on the left, you see normal means to contribute is our own employee contributions, elective deferrals, and then company match. And on the right are additional potential ones. Christian, I also asked again about the mega backdoor Roth when I asked about the HSA. Our plan doesn't allow for after-tax contributions, but I'm trying to get that changed. Congress is trying to get rid of it, but they haven't. And so I'm pressing again to see if we can get this in our plan, because with after-tax contributions, after you've maxed out your regular contributions, you can contribute more. And then with that and in-service distributions, you can transfer that to a Roth IRA or the Roth 401k. And you could, I'll show you in a few, you could contribute a ton more money that's Roth tax-free for life. But on the 401k, there's no income limits for contributing Roth or traditional, which on the IRA, there's significant income limits. But most companies, you can contribute Roth or pre-tax or a combination of both. Like we can do both in any number. Okay, here's now just an example to go into how much of that money is under that umbrella. So if this is assuming somebody has gets the max possible match they could, so they've got to have a hefty salary, 225,000 to be able to get this match at our company. But if you did, you would be contributing $33,750 to the 401k, but you still would have over $32,000 remaining under that umbrella, which if we had either one, if you had your own business and you open a solo 401k, you could add that money, those profit sharing in there, up to 25% of the earnings. If we had after-tax contributions, you could take all of that extra money that you can and then shove that into the Roth and tax-free growth for life instead of putting it in a taxable account where you'll pay tax on dividends and then capital gains forever. Any questions? And this doesn't hurt anybody. Like there's no reason not to do this. Yeah, so we'll see. So anybody like free money? I always like when you find something, at the ground or, in your pocket, like some jacket you haven't worn for a year, like, whoa, that's nice. But fortunately, at least everybody that first did the poll said they had contributed 10%. But if you're not at least contributing 10%, let's just take a look at what you're doing. Assuming $100,000, just for easy numbers, $100,000 salary. So ours 50% on a up to 5%. So you could get, if you don't contribute 10%, there's $1,000 you just threw away. If you only contribute 6%, that's another $1,000. That's $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 if you didn't contribute. You just threw away. I mean, everybody picks up a 20 or even a dollar if they see it, right? But sadly, so much of the country does not even get their max match, and they're just throwing money away. If your boss threw down $1,000 on your desk, would you leave it there? Hell no. All it is 10%. If you can't do that, you need to look at your finances and start cutting somewhere or figuring out a way to make some more to make sure you can at least get that free money. Okay. Next, 401k. It's really for retirement. I'm not a fan of loans or cashing it out. This money is protected too. Even if you went bankrupt afterwards and you had $1 million in your 401k, they can't touch it. It's amazing. So the idea of people taking out loans on it, it's this idea that you're paying your interest back to yourself is terrible. You're missing out all the gains from the market. And if you suddenly lost your job, you'd have to pay up everything immediately. It's just potentially pay a penalty. So like the bumper says, the reason pensions worked is because people couldn't spend it ahead of time. So same thing with the 401k. They work as long as you don't spend that money.
Hey, Alan,
Yep.
would you please go back to the previous slide?
Yep.
What it means to me, don't convert if your finances are not good and the chance that you have to declare a bankruptcy, full or partial, is better to leave the money in the 401k
Yes.
than
Absolutely.
Converting.
Then converting to what?
Let's say you convert it to the IRA. From
IRA most states have like $1 million or so. Each state varies on how much is protected. Yes, the IRAs are protected as well, but not as thoroughly as the 401k assets. But I was meaning more of though is taking loans out or people cashing out, this money. It's for retirement, so use it for retirement. Don't use it for anything. And that's just an additional bonus of, hey, even if you went bankrupt later, that money is still yours. Nobody can touch it. Amazing.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, makes sense. Okay. Okay, and then this is just you know, if you guys thinking about it. um, okay, just going into age-related rules with the 401k. If you withdraw before 59 and a half, in general, you'll pay income tax, as you would on, you know, this is assuming pre-tax 401k and a 10% penalty. So don't do it. That's, you just, there's other ways to get to this money. If you're with the company and you retire once you're 55, from 55 on, you can use that money in the 401k, and that's which is great. But what if you retire before that? Then you've got to figure out other options. The required minimum distributions, I just updated that so you could see how much it's been changing. You know, that's those that now are at 73 for people, you know, born 51 to 59, and 75 for the vast majority of people born 1960 or zero. 5-year rules on Roth. I need to just do a little talk on there, but you need to get your Roth started, because like a Roth IRA, you can pull out contributions immediately at any time. It's like you could use it as an emergency, but you cannot take out earnings until at least 5 years, or conversions for at least 5 years. And there's different rules, whether you're 59 and a half or previous, but the 5-year rules on earnings is the same regardless of your age. Even if you're 60 and you just open a Roth IRA for the first time, before you can pull out earnings tax and penalty free, is after that Roth has been open for at least 5 years. And all you had to do is even open a Roth, throw $1 in it. Even if you close that Roth years later, that still started that 5-year clock. So definitely get the Roth, both Roth 401k and Roth IRAs open and minimally funded at least. Any questions there? Okay. Okay, here's now going on to RMDs. And I updated, in the red was what we had previously shown. But what I want to show here is, hey, this, you know, we're assuming this was like contributions for 30 years. They used an 8% rate of return, and ended up being like $3 million. And here's what your RMD is would come out to. And this is where you're not in control of your taxes if you have too high of RMDs, which we'll go into in a bit. But notice on here, as it's shifted to age 75, even though that money would actually be larger. I didn't account for compounding an additional 3 years. I just used same $3 million. But the RMD would be 131,000, nearly 132,000, and it would keep going up each year. Amongst other income as well, you could suddenly find yourself in a higher tax bracket than you expected. So this is why it's important to control RMDs and be smart in funding Roth and using the gap years to do Roth conversions. They didn't, I guess my point is, sorry, I didn't explain. They have not revised the uniform lifetime table. It's the same table as in 2022, because they're using the same life expectancy. So you're just moving down, starting further down, which makes for a higher percentage immediately. Any questions there? Okay, I left the company. So go to a different company. What do you do with your 401k? You can leave it where it is, roll it into an IRA, or roll it into a new 401k plan, and then, or you could just withdraw it. But as I say, that's not an option in my opinion. If people have less than 5K in a 401k, less than $5,000, companies will typically just cash it out. You don't give it to them, so there's not really an option. But anywhere else, don't cash it out. Don't. Usually rolling it into a 401k is a lot of times the best thing if it's a lot of pre-tax instead of the IRA, or just keep them where it is. The military TSP, I tell people to keep it where it is. It's better. It's one thing government did really well, but it's super super low fees, very low expense ratios, and it's basically all just index funds like the S&P 500 and total U.S. stock market, total international market. It's great, and so just keep it there. Down the road, maybe it makes sense to consolidate things, but just don't waste money withdrawing it. Okay, here, health savings account. So this one, when we first did this discussion, it was a wake up call to a lot of people. You have to be in a high deductible health plan, but they've updated the limits. As you can see, it was additional $200, additional $450 for a family. But you can with the HSA, you can invest the money and pay your own medical, dental, vision out of pocket and invest that money. Just keep those receipts, whether it's Google Drive or whatever, keep those receipts. And years down later, 20, 30, 40 years later, you can pay yourself back after that money's compounded and, is worth way more than you just pay yourself back for that, what you paid out of pocket now. It's incredible because it goes in, it's like both a traditional, because it's pre-tax money. And then if you use that money for medical related items, the earnings are also tax-free. So it's like the combination of a traditional and a Roth. It's actually quadruple tax savings because you also don't pay FICA taxes. So it's the best really tax advantaged account there is out there. And if you have it when you're 65, that you can no longer contribute then when you're on Medicare. But if you didn't even want to use it for medical expenses, you could still use it as basically a traditional IRA. You'd have to pay taxes on the earnings, but so you want to try to use this for medical. But another thing, even with our plan, at least, even if you have an HSA, you can also get a limited use FSA, which is the flexible savings account. That's the one that you have to use this year, use it or lose it. But you can use that money and you'll still get that's pre-tax money. You can still use that on not medical, but you use it on dental and vision, and have that. I think of that as a great way of not tapping into your HSA money and setting aside some for the FSA. Does this make sense to everybody?
What did he say about the Medicare?
Oh, once people are on Medicare, I guess once you're on Medicare, you can no longer be contributing to an HSA. You can use your HSA money to pay for Medicare premiums, but you can no longer contribute. Does anybody have any questions on this? This is important. This HSA stuff.
I don't have an HSA right now, but I used to have it in the past. But yeah, this has been a first time learning for me that HSA money can be invested in all the things that you mentioned about being tax free and the best way. So yeah, I'm going to pass it along in the family. But for the FSA, you said it can be used for like dental and vision. Can it be also used for health?
Yes, it absolutely can, except what I was giving the example of is if you have an HSA and an FSA. Let's say you have a PPO plan or one of the other plans that's not the high deductible plan. You can absolutely use the FSA for everything. Then it's not a limited use FSA. Sorry, that was kind of confusing. So if you're on some other plan where you don't have an HSA, you can use the FSA money for medical, dental, vision, all of that. But if you have the HSA on a high deductible health plan and an FSA, that's then a limited use FSA, which the money could be used only for dental and vision. Makes sense?
Yes, it does.
Thanks for that question. That was important clarification. Okay. Yep.
A quick question. So in California, since you have the state tax for the HSA, it would kind of be equivalent to a Roth, like just benefit wise?
No, because you're still not paying federal tax. Yeah, you're paying some California state tax, but you're still getting the federal tax pre-tax and then federal, so
Mhm.
yeah, it's not as good in California as it is in other states that don't tax the HSA, which is I think about 48 of them. I think
Mhm.
only 2, but still, Mike, I mean, you're still not paying federal taxes,
That's true.
nor, it's still an absolutely great thing, and that people should take advantage of. And down the road, I think California is going to get forced, like the hopefully we'll see that California is such a tax heavy state, but um, hopefully that'll change. But I wouldn't let that keep you from investing in an HSA because it's still an incredible benefit.
Okay, thanks. And thanks about the limited use FSA. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, that's a key, something that's, you kind of have to dig deep and but that was something I researched and checked out because I think it's important and a good way to, not tap into your one, either use it if you don't have an HSA or use it as a limited use to not tap into HSA money if you can.
Yeah. So for us, maybe I
Yep.
missed this, but we open it through like our same place where we get the HSA for an FSA.
The FSA, you just do that. We're in the open enrollment period right now, and that right in there, you can put in how much you want in your FSA.
Okay, and we have to specify whether it's a limited use FSA we want.
I don't know.
Okay.
I imagine
No.
it's smart enough to just know what it is, based on what your other elections are.
Okay.
It has, yeah. So Janet, you know that it knows that it's
I don't think it even asks you. Well, I don't have the HSAs,
Okay.
but I've had in the past
Yep.
at another company, and it just knows it. But just make sure on the FSA, like Alan said, you have to use it all up. You have like 18 months. You get a little extension, like for this last year, you get till July, the middle of
Yep.
July to use it. But if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yep.
In the year and 2 months or 3 months, whatever it is. So
Yeah, exactly.
look at your expenses for the last year before you just pick a number. If you have them, try to figure out what your expenses were and what you think you'll spend it. Because otherwise you'll lose the money, and
Yeah,
that's just a waste.
No, that's absolutely true. But you should look at it. And sometimes you might know that you've got some dental stuff that might be an example, or vision, like, ooh, I'll stock up, say I have contacts that are expensive. I can stock, you know what I mean? So absolutely what she's saying is so important. Plan it out. And then, because you don't want to, that money will come out of every paycheck over the year. But you'll lose it if you don't use it. So think about planning on, okay, how am I going to, what money am I definitely going to spend? And then, do it accordingly. And then you can use it for also, there's other things where you can go like get medications, over the counter stuff as well. There's ways to be smart about it, but don't just max it out if you're not going to spend that kind of money. So think about, hey, I might do, like what's that, Invisalign or something like that, where it's not as covered by, our insurance. Hey, that's going to be kind of a hefty expense. Okay, so the next year or two, I might need, let me bump up my FSA money to cover that and still have the pre-tax advantage of that money.
Okay, thank you.
Well, yep. Okay, let's see. So income limits for IRAs. The Roth IRA is my favorite, of course, but they way too low of income limits, especially in California. So married, if you're at 228K, you cannot contribute directly to a Roth IRA. But even if we're like, for us that have a 401k plan and you're a participant, you can't get a tax deductible traditional contribution either. I mean, it's very limited. Look at that. If you're married and your family makes 136K or single 83K, you cannot deduct that tax on a traditional IRA. So if you're over these income limits, what do you do? We'll go into that, but it's the backdoor Roth, which is I'm a big fan of, and Congress was trying to get rid of it, but they haven't yet. So we'll keep using it. But they finally updated the limits to 6,500, as mentioned. They're going to start up in the catch-up contributions for 50 and over. base index to inflation. Okay, here's the backdoor Roth, and Jonky, this is something we were told you what we'd talk about. Okay, so it's kind of a supposed loophole. So what you need to do is, that's why people that have are really, people need both a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA anyway, because you'll probably roll 401k stuff into both. But you need to do the backdoor Roth. What you need to do is have a traditional IRA. You make a non-deductible contribution to the traditional IRA, invest it. And I said, wait a little bit. What I've done is just immediately convert it. But there is supposed to be some waiting time where, especially with the like 85,000 more IRS people being hired, they're probably going to start auditing a little more. So if that could hurt you. So what I would do now is just invest it, and then December of that year, convert all that money into your Roth IRA, and then it'll grow forever, tax-free earnings forever from that point on. You will, let's say you put in, let's just use 6,000 for 2022, and let's say it actually gained 10%. So not much, it's not a lot of $600. You would pay taxes on $600 when you convert 6,600 to the Roth IRA, but then that would grow forever tax-free. Does that make sense?
So on item 1, non-deductible, you mean don't take it off of your taxes for that?
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
And most people here cannot do that anyway, because look at the income limits that's mentioned. Because you're participating in a 401k plan, the limits to be able to deduct that money for a traditional IRA off your taxes for single, it taps out at 83K, for married 136K. So likely you couldn't even do it anyway. You know what I mean? So that's why, hey, definitely do the backdoor Roth. But now we're going to the pro rata rule. This is, if you have a lot of money in a traditional IRA, then it doesn't, you kind of lost the back door. And how I explain this is, let's say you have a traditional IRA, and this is aggregate of all of them. So you've got 10, I don't care if you got 1, 2, or 10 traditional IRAs. IRS sees them all as one composite aggregate. And let's say you have $94,000 of pre-tax money in that traditional IRA, whether it's from rolling up another pre-tax 401k, or it was just a traditional IRA you took tax, didn't pay taxes on. Now you put in your after-tax contribution, and you're thinking, yeah, I'm going to do the back door this year. You put in your 6,000. Now you've got $100,000 in that traditional IRA, right? And you just want to convert the 6,000 after-tax money to Roth IRA. Well, that's not how the IRS sees it. It's that $6,000 is like creamer you just added to the coffee. It mixes all together and it's all blended. And then so you move that 6,000 convert that to a Roth IRA, you're going to pay pay taxes on 94% of that conversion, because 94% of that 100K is pre-tax money. So does that make sense? So what you can do, though, if you're in that situation, is roll that money, and at our company you can do that. Roll that traditional 401k, traditional IRA into the company's 401k, and then you don't have any pre-tax money in the traditional IRA. You can contribute to the non-deductible contribution to the traditional IRA, and then do the backdoor, no taxes. Make sense?
And
yep.
One question, how do we do the backdoor, actual transfer?
And we can talk about that later. Each company I'm a big fan of, Schwab, Fidelity, and Vanguard. They're the low discount brokers. They're great to have these brokerage and IRA accounts with. Okay. They have instructions, and it's just doing a conversion. And everyone, I have actually a Word document for Fidelity and Schwab how you do it. It can explain, but and you can even call them up. But it's a common practice.
I see.
But it's just on their website. It's it takes you probably 2 to 3 minutes to do it.
Okay.
And you want to convert If it's all after-tax money, convert the whole amount, the entire account, and then but keep the account open, because that's usually like they'll ask you, do you want to keep this account open or close it, and keep it open, because then you'll do the same thing the next year.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Any questions on this, on backdoor or the pro rata rule? Those are important concepts. Another thing, if you're under the income limits to contribute to a Roth, none of this matters. Just contribute directly to the Roth, okay? And those are contributions, so that's even better than conversions, because that money can be used, pulled out at any time if you needed to in an absolute emergency. I don't want you to take your Roth money out early. Okay, and then here's another way of thinking of, so if you, to get down below the income limits, what you could do is contribute a ton to your pre-tax 401k, which brings your taxable amount down, hopefully below where you meet the Roth income limits. Then you could contribute directly to a Roth. And then if you wanted more Roth money, you could convert some of that, do an in-kind conversion of the pre-tax money in the 401k to Roth. You'll pay taxes on that money, but you'll have, if the whole point was you wanted to get more Roth, that's a way to do it. That makes sense? And that'll work regardless of whether they close the back door. If your incomes, you can get it low enough, taxable income low enough to be within the Roth limits. Okay. I'm going to go into this later. We've only got a few more minutes, but like I said, there's certain 5-year Roth rules, and it depends on if you're less than 59.5 or greater than 59.5, but we'll go into those specifics. And it all depends on the contributions versus conversions versus earnings. But I'm going to save that for another shorter topic, because it's confusing, and it's probably something we'll have to review regularly. Let's see, brokerage account. So this one, like I said, this is a tow truck. There's no age restrictions, and you pay it better capital gains rates than you would on like the pre-tax 401k. It's just capital gains, not income taxes. So everybody here, if they have employee stock purchase plan or RSUs, already have a brokerage account basically set up. That's what you have at E-Trade. If not, I have my separate brokerage account that I have a Schwab that I like better. And ultimately I'll just consolidate everything, over to the Schwab, eventually at retirement. But this, like I said, this is a tow truck because you can use this money at any time, and pulls you to that retirement age where you can use all the qualified money in the 401ks and IRAs. Okay. How do you get money out before 59.5? So there's the FIRE, which is the Financial Independence Retire Early. I call the Roth conversion ladder, and that's where you can take pre-tax money, say your pre-tax IRA or 401k, put it into convert some into a Roth IRA, let it season for 5 years, and you can pull that money out. And every conversion, though, when you're under 59.5, takes 5 years. So each year you did that, like you could do a ladder, like I'm saying, every year you're converting some amount of money, and then 5 years later you can keep pulling that amount of money out. Make sense? Retire at 55 or later. As said, with that company, you can use that 401k money. Now, one thing about this, if this was the option you wanted to use, what I would probably do is move out as much money as the money you think that you only keep as much as you think you need till 59.5 in there, if you wanted to roll the rest into, an IRA. And then I would go conservative with this money, because it's going to be your basically a cash account. So if you wanted to use this, the last thing you'd want to do is be using it, and all of a sudden we have a big market correction, and because how our money comes out, at least out of our accounts, it comes out just aggregate of all the different accounts. You can't pull like, oh, I want to pull from this bond fund. Nope, it pulls out equally in percentage wise how your allotment is throughout the 401k. So if you were going to use this, I'd move out money that you aren't going to need, then put then this money, since you're going to be spending it in the next couple of years, it needs to be very safe. Put it into safe investments. And then the rest of your allocation with your IRA and everything else, that's where you go more in stocks and stuff, since you're not going to be spending that, and you can handle the fluctuations, but get the growth. Make sense? I know some of this is I'm kind of go over it pretty quick, but it's important. And then the next is this substantially equal periodic payments. I'm not a big. Go ahead.
Alan, you said you have something at 1300. I mean,
Yeah, I know. Yep. I might be a couple minutes late. I'm going to send them a Slack.
thank you.
Yep. But I'm going to try to get through a couple of these real quick. Substantially equal periodic payments. You pull out a certain amount, the same amount each year up until 59 and a half, or 5 years, whichever is longer. The problem is with this, if there's a market correction, you still have to pull that same amount out. And so you could be hurting yourself long term. So not super big fan of that. Okay, so taxes. Just stop thinking just about taxes today. Too many people think about it. You should be looking at it as lifetime. Tax management. Here's a reason why now might be a good time to be doing some more Roth contributions than previously. This is in 2026, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act goes away, and we go back to the tax brackets on the right. Look at how much better our taxes are right now, and every bracket's lower. So look at that 24% bracket versus a 33% bracket. So in 2026, what this is expected to expire, we're going to have much higher tax brackets. So it might be a good time to contribute a little more Roth now. Okay, here's additionally, just want to touch, on IRMA. This is why those RMDs can really kick you in the butt, because if you could, this is basically another tax. Look at how much additional tax you could have by having these large IRMA payments. So if you're over a certain income limit, you're suddenly this much higher monthly premium, and that's for each person. So the total 10,000 there, that 9796 is what it would be for I think it was a married couple I used as the additional potential tax they could pay. Okay. Here's, like I said, I kind of already touched on this, Roth conversion. So when you're in the gap years, when you stop working, low income's lower tax bracket, start moving money over to Roth, converting it, pay taxes on that money in a much lower tax bracket, and then it's tax-free growth for life. As an example, here's a couple, look at the 12% tax bracket. You could convert, each year so much money, and now we've got 3 more years since RMDs got pushed out 3 to do these conversions to get more money from pre-tax to Roth and pay at a low tax rate. As we talked about California being so expensive, that's another option. People moving out, when they retire. I mean, these are significant taxes, worst tax rates in the country. And then here's, like we talked about, you want a balance of all the accounts. You want some taxable, some the traditional 401k is I consider always taxable. Roth 401k and IRA is never taxable. Brokerage is just capital gains, but you want this tax flexibility so you can make large purchases and not have this huge tax bomb. But too many people have just deferred everything, and they have this huge traditional IRA and 401k because they never want to pay taxes that year, and then they're going to get hit by these huge RMD bombs, and that's why it's important to do these conversions before you hit RMD age, or start contributing now, to get as much Roth as you can. Contribute while you're making less, low tax rate to Roth, and as your salary goes up, go more pre-tax, and then in the gap years, convert to Roth, and so you can have that kind of good pie. And then this, just the importance of compounding. The rule of 72 is if you take whatever your rate of return, let's say 8%, and divide that into 72, that's 9. That's how, without adding any additional money, that's how long it takes for that money to double. So in 9 years. So the earlier you start, it doubles every 9 years. It could be even better. So, just the example of, you folded a little piece of paper 40 times, that's how big it gets. Think of that same thing with your money. The earlier you start, the more you can double. And then this will go into like saving for children though, but take care of yourself first. I love that. But people can take student loans. There's no loans for retirement. So just remember that. Okay, here's your homework. Update your benefits, take a look at it, consider HSA and high deductible plans. You can go in and out of those. You don't have to be stuck in it every year. You can swap around. Update your contribution percentages as only 20% had done. Open the IRA and open it now before tax day, and you can still contribute for 2022. And then just typical important things: review and cancel unneeded subscriptions, and verify your beneficiaries. Okay, any questions? I do need to cut.
I want to ask real quick.
Yep.
When you shared that in 2023 we are still in a relatively lower tax bracket.
Mhm.
So just to confirm, like it's still a good time to have an IRA account and contribute some money to traditional IRA before the year ends, and then later convert it into Roth through the
Correct.
Backdoor.
Yep. I've set a reminder in December and do the whole conversion in December to Roth.
Okay, sounds good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thanks everyone. I'll stop the recording and